Hey everyone, Amanda here. I'm just checking in because I've had some things bumping around in my awareness that I thought might be helpful to share. First of all, I feel like I want to say, and I've been thinking about this a lot, that I feel my frustration as I'm on my own spiritual journey and trying to find help and answers or guidance, something to relate to give me a little hope or wisdom along the path. As I listen to a lot of teachers, mentors, guides, spiritual healers, and the like, when I hear them speak, um, oftentimes I feel that the middle of the story is missing or is glossed over quickly. And what I mean by that is I feel that everybody wants to share the difficult beginning and they want to share the triumph at the end, but they don't really share a lot of detail about the middle part. So the middle part for me is where you've gotten some awareness around an issue or a lesson or a journey. You've gotten some awareness around it, so maybe there's you can move through it with more peace or more ease, but you're not quite to the part where you feel something has wrapped up or the lesson's been learned or a new phase has begun. So you're kind of in this, I sometimes call it the void, or the middle space where the struggle and the growth is really happening. So right, when we first get hit with some kind of truth or lesson, some kind of new awareness, it can be anywhere from shock and upset, and it brings up all the trauma or wounded parts that need healing around that thing, or there's a euphoria about it. Oh, I've got this new insight or awareness, or this thing is coming up and it's a magical moment. So those awakenings, that beginning piece can either be extremely challenging or extremely just beautiful and euphoric. And when we're in that beginning phase, it's almost like we're so blinded by or overwhelmed by what's going on that we don't have a second to sit and process always. The middle space is our processing space, our integration of that new awareness, or that the piece of the journey that can be, for me, the integration phase is really the struggle part. It can be, and for me, it often waffles between, really being at peace and in a place of acceptance about what's going on and feeling like I'm making empowered choices and I'm understanding what to do and how it's unfolding, and I go between that extreme to intense doubt and intense, why is this happening? And it could be that I'm just not as enlightened as some spiritual teachers, and I'm humble enough to say that could very well be. Could also be that once you've reached the other side of that lesson, you look back and the struggle seems rather trivial, that, well, you've learned it, you've integrated what you've needed from that experience, and so the pain piece or that attachment to the struggle is gone. So it could be that that's why that phase gets glossed over. But I feel that it's authentic and important to share from this middle space, and that's where I feel I'm at with a particular piece of my journey right now. So, I think I hope one day to be sharing the video from the other end of the experience, the other side, and looking back and seeing with new awareness and, like the happily ever after part. It would be nice to later be able to share that with you, but I do feel like there's value in speaking out the middle piece. And the reason is, I think, at least for me, I find it hard to locate a map for what to do in the middle phase, for how to facilitate the healing and growth that needs to happen in the middle. And perhaps just in seeking to grow and heal, we find those tools, or we inherently are working through it even as we don't realize we are. That could very well be. But my approach to spirituality is not to deny my humanness. And I think we can know a spiritual truth on a higher level, but we are still having the human experience. And I want to acknowledge and honor that in all of you and also in myself. Our human piece really struggles to understand and make sense of what's going on a higher level. And I'm gonna, I guess, just be very transparent and share as much as I feel comfortable about what's really going on. So, my specific story, I hope you can find something in it that hits for you. But I'm very clearly on, some people might call it a twin flame journey. I don't use that label very often. I like to say sacred partnership or soul connection. So a large part of my spiritual growth has been around, it has been a dance with another energy. And that can be incredibly challenging and incredibly rewarding. And it has been also deeply ingrained in, if you've watched other videos on my channel, I've been going through this rather vivid past life experience in the Civil War era, and discovering more and more layers to that experience as I go along. I have in the process done a lot of checking into other people's experience with past lives, and I've had a really hard time finding another person with an experience I feel is similar to mine in the vividness, the detail, and the specifics that I know about my situation. And so for me, that is an indicator that I'm being called to share my experience, because I'm sure that I'm not the only person who is going through something similar, but perhaps I'm the only person sharing. So the short version of, if I can, of my situation is that I was brought into the awareness that I had a past life in the Civil War era. My name was Sally Dandridge. I was engaged to the Confederate artillery commander John Pelham. He passed away in the Civil War in 1863. And 10 years later, I married a man named Blackburn Hughes. So this particular, what's going on with me right now is actually very much centered around Blackburn Hughes. My relationship with John is such that he is a spirit guide, and he's been guiding me and protecting me for pretty much my whole life, this lifetime, which is really beautiful. And it turns out that whatever has yet to be resolved from back then is to do with Blackburn Hughes, and actually doesn't seem to have very much to do with John at all. I had a vivid vision in meditation of my own death as Sally Dandridge and dying in the arms of Blackburn Hughes. And what I realized in that vision was that Blackburn Hughes has been reincarnated with me in this lifetime, so I know who he is. And I've also subsequently, as I've looked further into our relationship and what's going on between us, I have discovered at least one other lifetime we've shared as Native Americans. And in that lifetime, what I had a remembrance of him being struck in the chest by an arrow and me holding him as he died. So I have this awareness that this soul and I have reincarnated multiple times together, and we have been lovers each time, deeply, deeply, deeply rooted love, and we have been there for each other in also the darkest moments. And I guess coming back to the modern times, this all seems rather, like a romance story, like quite to see it all unfold and to hear it told. It sounds like something from a movie. Two lovers reincarnated together over and over again. And actually, I do tap into his higher self at times and receive messages from him. And something he said to me was, "It's always been us." This idea that we will come back together and we'll find each other and we'll be there for each other in an eternal loop. Which, if you know anything about twin flames, is pretty consistent with the ideology behind that I feel is integrity. There's also a lot of really strange and unhealthy information out there in the world about twin flames. But the idea of twin flames is that you are eternally connected and you mirror things for each other and you help each other learn spiritual lessons. And that can often be a very challenging relationship in the physical, but it also challenges you to grow and be the best version of yourself. And I guess the middle part that I was talking about at the beginning, the part that is the struggle or the roadblock is, for me, it's very difficult to be privy to all this information. I vividly remember and have re-felt all of the emotions of certain moments between us. And at the current moment, as far as I know, he's not aware of it. And so it often feels like it reminds me, I think it was a movie with Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams that I saw one time. It's she has amnesia and he's her husband and she doesn't remember. And oftentimes that's what it feels like, is I still have all these memories of us together and I'm still deeply in love with this person, this soul. And how, from my end, I think, how could I not be? When you remember dying in someone's arms and looking in their eyes and them saying, "I'm here." When you remember burying your children together. When you remember all the ways you've been there for each other and that person's been there for you, and the deep love that you've shared. I often come to a crossroads and I think, I know that I have free will and choice, and I have a lot of power within this situation, that when it gets painful for me, I have the choice to choose not to stick with it. I have the choice to choose, what I decide to do with what I've been given. And you get to a crossroads and you think, I constantly come back to the question of, what kind of a lover am I? Right? It has nothing to do with what he's doing or what his situation is or what his choices are. Those are his to make. But what are my choices? What do my choices in love say about me? And when I ask what kind of lover am I think, what kind of lover would I be to walk away? And that's at least the place I'm at now. And I think it's hard for people to understand in a culture and in a world that often thinks, we look for instant gratification. And, if we hear in a lot of spiritual circles, it's like, if he can't show up, walk away. You deserve better, honey. That kind of thing. And while that's true, we all deserve deep love. We all deserve to be shown up for. That we also have to, in our spiritual journey, understand that sometimes it is our job to step up and show up for other people as well. That we have to show up in our love the way that we would wish others to show up for us. And especially in a sacred partnership, there are going to be times when one person is anchoring and holding things down energetically, and for that other person as they go through their own thing that really has nothing to do with you. And I think that's been the humbling piece for me, is understanding that sometimes it has nothing to do with me. Sometimes really where you're at is, it's not about you. And it doesn't mean but like I said, the middle piece is, that doesn't mean my feelings aren't involved. That doesn't mean I don't miss someone when they're not in my life. It doesn't mean that, there's a lot to it that is beyond a simple answer. And I think that's what the void space is all about. It's understanding that there's subtlety to life, and nuance and complication, and that there's actually a lot of beauty even in that space. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm here, and I've just recently had a number of comments made to me as I, share and I discuss with close friends of mine, and I try to unpack and understand my own experience. A really good friend of mine said to me, I wish I could be like those people who never doubt. And she was talking about soul connections, soulmates. There are some people who just know, and they know it's the one, they know who it is, and they never doubt. And I turned to her and I just said, who are those people? Who are those people who never doubt? I don't think they exist. And if somebody's pretending as if they have never had doubts, or they knew all along, they have forgotten the middle piece. They've forgotten what they went through to get to the place of real understanding. And that's why I share, because I feel like this is real and honest, and this is the part of the process as well, is not knowing and feeling like you aren't, gracefully moving through things, and feeling like you don't know what to do, and bargaining with your spirit guides like, well, I'll stick this out, but it better not be 20 years, y'all. And we go through all these stages, and for me it's been a lot of stages of grief, and not just losing someone one time, but remembering that loss over and over again. I never, I think it's deepened me and given me a lot of compassion, because, man, is grieving exhausting. And wow, as a human, really hard to understand that we've lost each other so many times, and it might not be in our path to be together in this lifetime. That may not be the reason why we've met. And having to learn to, people will say let go. And I think if people tell you to let go, then they've never felt what it feels like to really have a soul connection, because you cannot. And maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but you can't let go. What you can do is accept where things are, accept that you don't know the answer, and accept that maybe your version of what you would like to happen might not be the best thing for you, or for them, or for everyone involved. And I think I've accepted that coming to a place where you're not trying to control the circumstance is really hard. Instead of trying to control an outcome of some kind, accepting that where you are is exactly where you need to be, even if you don't like it. And so doubt, doubt, I think, is actually very healthy, because the people who have no doubt are probably the ones who aren't thinking very deeply about their choices, or the way we grow spiritually is by questioning and by, seeking to go deeper, and that, with that comes doubt. um, Needing to know the truth, going for the truth and authentic, what's authentic and what's honest. It's constantly shedding layers, and that comes, doubt comes with the territory. It's, what do you do with that doubt? Is, do you come back to center and come back to trusting yourself and come back to trusting the amazing beings in spirit that are guiding you? Yeah, and I had another person tell me when she heard my story, um, and not multiple people actually have expressed this to me. This, they hear my story with John and they hear my story with Blackburn, and they say, "Wow, I have never experienced a love like that. I don't know if I've ever felt that soul connection, real, true love." When the stories, when storybooks and the movies talk about true love, I've had that multiple times over. Like, I've seen it, I've felt it so clearly in my life and my experience and my other lives, and I've had that. And perhaps this is what I'm here to do, is be a witness to that. Because we lose hope and we believe that it's not there, or it doesn't exist, or it's a pipe dream, and it's not. I know what real love is, and it is absolutely present in this universe. And so perhaps my call, maybe I'm doing the purpose of what I'm here to do anyway, without needing to understand fully. But I'll say that's the thing, is people will envy or romanticize this experience. They'll look at it and say, "Man, I wish I had that, or I wish I knew that." And I think real, true love calls us to be the bravest version of ourselves over and over again. And just when you think you've been the most vulnerable and the most brave, and there couldn't possibly be more, you will be pushed further. But I also, when I look at that, this isn't from a place of, "Oh, poor me, oh, it's been so hard." It has been hard. But every time I come to reevaluate and I say, "Okay, well, it's been really hard. Shall I make another choice?" I can't. And I've found actually that is the part that baffles people most. Well, everyone else, not everyone else, but many people would take the escape route. And I understand why. And sometimes honestly, I've wished that I could take the escape route. I have wished that I could find something to numb this experience. I've wished that I could find some kind of easy solution. I've wished that I could move on, find something else. But for me, and again, I speak from my experience and what feels right for me. What feels right for you might be totally different. I have never been someone who believes in abandoning the people I care about. And I've also seen, in friendships and in other areas of my life, and again, maybe this is just my soul mission and my soul path and what I'm able to do and show up, the ways I'm able to show up for others, my skill set, my toolkit. Um, when I see that somebody is pushing me away out of fear or pain, when I see that the reason why they're doing that is because they've been disappointed by people in their life, when I see that they push away because they haven't been loved in the ways that they deserve, I ask myself, well, if I think it's wrong the way those other people have treated this person that I love, this person I love and cherish, if I am angry at others for abandoning them when they needed them, then I can't do that myself. And so you stick it out. And what I've found, luckily, in relationships that I've had, connections that I've had before this, that I felt were preparation for what I'm going through at this moment, I've been shown multiple times and in multiple ways that when you trust that voice that says, stay when it would be easier to go, when you trust that voice, you never regret it. And I hope what I'm not saying, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying stay in situations that are draining you of your life force and your energy. I'm not saying stay in a situation that is codependent or unhealthy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people who really are able to show up for you equally, yet in this moment, there is something they're going through that they cannot. That is very different than somebody who consistently cannot show up for you. So just don't hear that. I'm not saying stick it out because one day they'll get it. No. Because I also have accepted the fact that he may never remember me. He may never have the awareness of what's going on. It may never come to be in the way that I hope or the way that I thought or any of that. But you don't stay because of an outcome. You stay because you're growing as a soul and you feel that this is the place you need to do it in. So there's a lot of discernment involved in this. And this is why this middle space is a place of deep questioning, of going back and forth, and sometimes sleepless nights, and sometimes random crying, and sometimes picking up on their energy and feeling them, but not being able to hold them, and missing them. But I had someone tell me recently, and I might cry, so if I cry, whatever. Y'all have seen me cry how many times now? When you feel that feeling of missing them, when you go deeper into it, you realize that you can tap into the feeling of what it is to love them. Because that's all grief is, that's all missing somebody is loving them so deeply. And that's actually beautiful. And it's something I wouldn't trade at all. Even the memories I've had that are very difficult and the processing of that trauma and that difficulty, I wouldn't trade. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day is, I joke that I have a high pain tolerance and low sense of self-preservation when it comes to emotions, that I can get through I can work through pain, emotional struggle. But at the end of the day, I have to be able to go to bed with myself and feel right about my choices. Um, and if I feel I am doing right or doing what I'm called to, there is a peace in that. So it's this weird duality of living that on one hand, your human peace is totally unsettled and doesn't know what the crap you're making her do, and then your spiritual side, your higher self, the part of you that's in alignment is actually very at peace with the fact that you are where you need to be and doing what you need to do, and you are bringing light to a world that needs it. And yeah, maybe that's what it is the only reason why deep love or deep soul connections can be so painful is because we're put in the container of a world that wants to believe they don't exist. And so maybe this has been a bit of a rant or random tangent or something like that, but I hope that something I've said has a nugget of truth in it for you, or there's a reason why I've shared this. It isn't always easy to show what some would call the ugly parts of the journey, or the I'm not coming here telling you I have it figured out. And I'm not coming here telling you the fairy tale ending of, because that's what I see a lot, is a lot of twin flame couples in particular. They're telling you the story after they've come back together and resolved a lot of the tough stuff, which is beautiful, and they need to share in their way. I've just seen the extremes of either people are coupled off and have worked through the healing they need to be able to be together in the physical, or you have people who haven't come together with their counterpart yet, who are sharing a quite fierce narrative of individuality and going on your own path, and not really worrying about what's going on with the other person. And I'm in the middle space. And the middle is hard, but I also look at it as, the middle part of the movie is where all the action is. That's where all the excitement is, and that's where you see what kind of characters they truly are. Like, what kind of people those characters truly are. And that's, like, the trial by fire is actually the most exciting portion. And so trying to look at it that way, even when it can be hard or confusing, or that's part of the creative life and the dynamic life. And I think that's really all I have for you today. I really appreciate any of you who are listening, and I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts, and what does this discussion kind of provoke for you. And anybody who is in the middle, in the void, in the uncertainty, in the feeling like your questions aren't being answered, right there with you. So solidarity there. But man, you really gotta have compassion and love for yourself in that space. It takes so much bravery to be there, and especially be there for any length of time. So let's do the brave work, and let's just remember what kind of lovers we are.